everybody, and welcome to our second podcast. I'm Serge, this is Lee, and
I'm Lee.
We are two fathers on a grieving journey. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. As hashtags go, that's the one I'm sort of...
It's a constant journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, well, it never ends. And I think that is the key to grief is the fact that it doesn't ever go away. As I said, for some of us, life gets easier, but it isn't easy. It's one of my other mottos. But we're trying to find those every cloud moments out of this journey and trying to find things that we can all relate to as fellas, as fathers, as dads, and get you guys talking. And in the previous podcast, we were sort of like, well, what are we going to call this? And I think we pretty much said the name in the first couple of sentences, didn't we?
Totally.
Men do talk.
We do.
But...
we choose our places and our times, but we do.
We do, but men tend to be known as not being able to talk. And the phrase, men don't talk, is quite commonplace out there.
Because it still
society.
Always has been the come on, dust yourself down, bite your bottom lip, chin up.
As a couple of people in my life have said, man up.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, that's a hard word to hear, definitely. And because how can a woman or someone else tell me to man up when they don't know what's going on in my head?
But that's the same. That's the same for anyone, which is why I have always tried to. This could be a podcast of cliches, but it's the never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
You know, just because you are you, even the first time we meet, I shouldn't, and I try not to as a person anyway. I should never try and judge you on how I think you think or you are. I have no idea. Walk a mile in a man's shoes. It's another cliche, but it's this whole. I don't know what's gone on in your life, so why should I even begin to think what goes on in there? I just don't know.
Well, it goes back to my school days, I think, to sort of deviate from the conversation where the teacher was telling me off. I wasn't thinking about what they were telling me off about. I was thinking about what makeup they were wearing or how they looked. You know, you sometimes you just can't connect mentally with people. And what we've done through our sort of meeting is found a common bond. And, you know, just to reiterate, those who missed last week's podcast, we met because ultimately of two tattoos that we had. And, you know, those tattoos, and we'll show them at the same time, were Maddie May and
Madeline.
And we both lost our daughters in different circumstances. They were children. That was the common denominator. And yeah, we were at different stages on that grief journey. And as Lee has been on the grief journey longer, I think we should start with his story this week. Do you see the way I segued into that?
Absolutely brilliant. So
that
smooth.
That was all off the top of my head.
So smooth.
That was good. I'm a pro. No. So, I mean, look, it's not an easy way to start the conversation. And a lot of the time it is a conversation stopper, let's be honest. But how many people over the years have asked you, tell me about losing Madeline?
Well, actually, very few. Because what happens is, unless someone knows... no one's going to go, oh, hi, yeah, my name is so-and-so. Oh, you lost your daughter. Tell me what happened. Because that's the last thing. People are like, shit, I've just... What people do is they go, shit, I've just reminded him that he lost his daughter. No, you haven't reminded me. It's what I keep telling people. It's always there.
Yeah.
It's literally that plaster. It's there and the plaster holds it in. It takes nothing to rip it off, but I can put it straight back on now.
But you found yourself you've got that standard line now, right? Nowadays,
well, it depends
right?
on what people are asking. It's again,
Depends
it's what
if
I
you
was
wanna
saying.
take the mick out of them.
Well, it's the loaded question.
Yeah.
It's the loaded question of, how many kids have you got? Oh, I've got 4 children. Oh, I've got a boy, girl, boy, boy. Oh, if someone says, oh, wouldn't you love to have another girl though? Okay, that's the loaded question.
Wow,
Bang,
yeah,
out comes a shotgun.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So it does all depend.
See, I did it the other way. So last week I was at a party and somebody said to me, how many children do you have? And I said, I have 3. 2 are with me and the other one is no longer with me.
Okay, so that's yeah. We all carry a
and
gun.
that still, I was looked for that reaction. You know?
So this is also something.
I'm not trying to be bitter and twisted about it.
No,
but
no.
It's trying to understand why people react in a certain way. And it's like when you walk into a shop with a disabled child, like I did many a time. I remember one time when I went into Costco. And literally the wave parted as I produced Maddie in this wheelchair. It was like, everyone gives that sympathetic,
which
you.
is only fair, and
Yeah.
it's actually when you see things like that, it's fair, and
Yeah.
and if they didn't, you'd be like, wait a minute. So I understand,
Well,
and
I was that person before anyway.
exactly. I understand it if I tell someone, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, because they didn't know. They're only asking a question like, how many children do you have? And it's a perfectly fair and reasonable question. It's up to me to decide how I want to give the answer, whether I feel particularly cruel to see them squirm.
Yeah.
In the realization they've just, in their eyes, they have made me relive my loss again, and they haven't. But yeah, but we've kind of gone off. So what was the original? So what was the original question?
Tell me about losing Madeline. I want you to talk me through that process. That's quite heavy, and I can see the eyes welling up already. So
well, not quite yet, but they will. So
I mean, I want to know.
Okay, I won't give you every step by step.
Let me tell you. No, so let me tell you where I am with this. Right? Sorry, I need to go back a bit because ultimately, I did a post on TikTok yesterday and Instagram, which basically talked about the moment. My therapist turned around to me and said, "Tell me about the moment you lost Madeline, or the morning you woke up." And I was like, fuck. Because what I had done is I had parked it for 5 years. I'd written a book and I put all the words into that book. 280,000 words of my innermost feelings. And I parked it. And that's where I want you. I want to get to that point with you where they said to you, Maddie's going to die. Maddie's going to die.
Okay, so obviously for me, that point didn't happen.
Right.
Because she just died in front of me.
No warning.
No, she died in front of me in hospital. So all the viewers are like, oh my God, I can't. But, so without giving a whole minute by minute, I suppose realistically, it started probably 2 months before she died, which is actually almost like any. I'm not saying that's when it started, but for us, you could almost say that was the point. Doing a ballet performance, and she was sick, put it down to nerves or what have you. Went on and did a performance.
Was it a good performance?
It was very good, and I remember waiting at the side in the theatre with her because she was Winnie the Pooh, and I remember waiting. I took her on. She was very nervous. Took her on, then she came off, and I was waiting at the side.
Proud dad.
Yeah, I still couldn't. I still can't watch that video. I think I've watched it once. I can't. That's where we're a bit different. I only have 4.5 years of stuff. You have 9 bit years, but your years are what your Maddie did in 9 years was probably a lot less than what my daddy. So it's kind of, it's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. For me with Maddie, it was like capture the best moments that made her look as human as possible.
Exactly. so that was when she first, was ill, no different to any other child. And then she got an ear infection, and I think we went to the doctor, ear infection, they gave her antibiotics, and antibiotics didn't really work, and she was tired, and the infection went, and it came back again. Then I think we got another load of antibiotics, and I think she had a reaction to those, so we stopped taking them. And
what's going through your mind at this point?
Well, nothing. She's our 4-year-old daughter. She's not well. We're first-time parents.
Were you extra vigilant? Were you panicking more than
No,
you weren't panicking.
No, not at all.
Just an ear
infection,
yeah.
And she's not getting better, and it's taking longer, and it might be something else. But you don't think, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't think she's got leukemia, she's going to die. If that was the case, every parent in the world would go absolutely panic-stricken at a cough.
Yeah,
that's what would happen, and you don't.
Acid reflux, that was the common.
Still is, isn't it?
Yeah.
All these babies, acid reflux, allergic to milk. Anyway, that's a whole. Yeah.
But that's
I went to a specialist for acid reflux. Yeah, no, but we didn't.
But let's be honest, in that day, you didn't know any difference, so you would have put it down to that, right? Something as basic as maybe an allergy or
well, she was breastfed,
like
so she probably wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
And not at 4 years old.
Yeah.
But anyway. So the infections never went. She got tired and she wasn't getting better, and this kind of went on. We went to I think it was the Harmony Clinic at the time, so the out of hours clinic, and you see one doctor and he's about as useless as farting in the wind sort of stuff.
We won't name names.
No, right? It's just a normal GP. Not the same. They will fob you off, but it was a bit of a. And then I suppose it wasn't getting any better. It was on and off. And then I suppose the final sequence, we were going away to the Netherlands to actually, because my wife is Dutch, we were going off to see my father-in-law. He was doing a sort of presentation speech because he's a biochemist. We were going over there. And clearly Madeline wasn't getting any better. She really wasn't well. My wife took her to A&E. This is 2 days before she died. And she took her to A&E. What they do, if people don't know, is certainly with children, I don't think they do it with adults. When they're going to do a blood test, you'll know, they put numbing cream on the areas, they put a plaster over it, so when they do get the blood, you can't feel the needle go in. So they did that on all four. They monitored her oxygen saturation, which again is standard. They put the thing on the finger, which they do on everyone. And at that point, she had oxygen saturation. I think it was about 87 or something like that, or 80. It was criminally low, because most people should have 98, 99. Yeah. Smokers maybe 96, 97. If you go into hospital and your oxygen saturation is reading 95, 94, and even with and especially with children, you ain't going anywhere. They're going to keep you there. So 91, 90, 80, she should have stayed. And I remember my wife telling me, she said to the nurse, she's had recurring ear infections or recurring infections. She's not getting any better and hasn't got any better. Shouldn't we be testing for leukemia? Well, because it's all to do with your immune system. You're not getting better. So clearly it's not just an ear infection. To which the nurse went, it's not leukemia. They obviously took the plasters off, didn't test blood. To the day, don't understand why. That's, again, it's another... They didn't do that. But when they took the plasters off, obviously I wasn't there. To I said, Madeline went, ow, ow. So... But that shouldn't hurt because you've had the numbing cream on and it left a mark. Now that shouldn't happen. It's supposed to numb you. And then I think she was sent home with Madeline. I think, with some Calpol. The next day,
Unbelievable.
we're due to go away the following day. The next day, I took her to the GP because she actually woke up in the morning and her lips were blue and she actually had a spot on her back, which actually, sepsis. That's what it was. We didn't know.
Yeah.
Should have known, did. But you kind of, you don't. And I remember going to the GP and I showed him the spot, the blue lips. I mean, and you'd think any trained GP would see a sign like, you'd think when you go to medical school, maybe there's some GPs out there that can tell me, but surely there are kind of your basics. Child comes in with blue lips, tick to maybe get her to hospital. You know, these are the...
Yeah.
You don't miss that. Oh, blue lips. Oh, 7 years in medical school, however long that is. I don't remember them talking. You know, okay. And I said, we're due to go away tomorrow. She's got this, she's got that. What's... To which it was pretty much, well, when you get back, we'll do some blood tests. And sent us on our merry way. We went away the next day. I remember the T-shirt she was wearing and the T-shirt Finn was wearing. We were on the plane. We got over to the Netherlands. And we got to my mother-in-law's. She lives in Wageningen, which is wherever it is.
You said that beautifully.
Yeah, well, I do have good pronunciation, I've been told. Wageningen. And we were staying at my mother-in-law's, which we so often did. It was a beautiful day. And she clearly wasn't well. I remember being on the bus from Ede Wageningen station. We got on the bus and she was sitting in the buggy because she was just tired and she wasn't well. Well, I mean, it was a day before she was dying, so of course she wasn't well. And I remember we were on the bus, she was on the buggy, and we got off the bus near my mother-in-law's, and I still, to the day, I never forget, and on the buggy, and we're getting off with the buggy, and she just fell out of the buggy, with nose just fell out, and I remember this to the day. Anyway, we went we were at my mother-in-law's, and clearly she wasn't well. She just was not well. She got into bed at my mother-in-law's, and Tamar went into the room. She had to sleep, and Tamar went into the room.
Was everyone at this point calm? I mean, was there a lot of hysteria around?
There wasn't any hysteria, but we knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And Tamar went into the room.
But it's confusion and fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Totally. And she brought her out. And she was just like, she's like, this isn't right. We need something is wrong. And she took her to the local doctor, which was literally 30 metres from where Tamar's mum lived. And thanks for this. And she'd got there, and within about 2 minutes, get a phone call. You need to come now. And bizarrely, I picked up our passports. Don't ask me why. I just did.
It's a nice thing to do, isn't it, in a foreign country?
You just something in there went, pick up the passports.
Yeah.
Even though my wife is Dutch, but anyway. And I ran to the doctor's surgery, which is literally 30 metres. And I walked in, and as I walked in, the doctor's looking at me, GP's looking at me like... They'd called the ambulance, and he was literally like, well, because he knew...
What went through your head?
I think now your body has gone into shock. You don't realise it, but it has done, because you're on an autopilot. You don't know what the autopilot is, but it's almost like that what do they call it? It's like fight or flight. So you're just alive, and you're just going, and you're being.
How did you feel physically, emotionally? Did you feel sick inside?
Numb. And And I remember they called the ambulance, and Tamar's obviously incredibly upset, and I'm like, basically to myself, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is happening here?
But calm externally.
Well, I can't actually remember, but yes,
Yeah.
probably because I wasn't. Oh my god, what's that going to do? It's not like in the films.
Like the mother-in-law would react.
It's not like in the films. Everybody, it's that kind of. No, it's not. That's not me anyway. Yeah. Next thing you know, ambulance has turned up, blues and twos, off to the hospital. It's also with that, I've never understood why people don't get the hell out of the way when they hear an ambulance. There's an ambulance coming. There could be someone with a bleeding head, a heart attack, whatever, a child. Get the fuck out of the way. It's not doing it for giggles.
I'm going to do a little segue here. So we were blue lighted from Watford General to Great Ormond Street, down the M1, BMW racing us.
These people should be
locked away
or given a ban.
I mean, you literally,
or put them in a hospital, see someone die.
Yeah.
Because they've caused it anyway.
Yeah.
So next thing you know, we're being rushed to hospital. We get to the hospital, get rushed in, and they're now pretty much trying to save her life. It's as simple as that.
Did they say at any point?
They were too busy trying to save her life. Hospitals, they're not going to go, right, let's sit down for a minute.
Did the doctor at the GP say this is life-threatening?
Well, by the fact that he was looking at me going...
So he didn't actually say...
No, that pretty much said it to me, this is fucking serious, mate, in a Dutch accent.
Yeah.
In a kind of, this isn't good.
Yeah.
I knew that from when he said that. It was a bit of disbelief, but I knew that. You still don't believe it when someone's saying, you do know this is really serious and your child could be dying. You can't compute it. Anyway, we're in the hospital. She's on the bed. They're trying to do everything they can.
Is she awake at this point? Or?
She is awake.
Sorry.
And I think someone had flown in from Utrecht, which is it's not miles away, but they had to fly them in. And all I remember is they were working on her for ages, and I do remember looking at her, telling her I love her, and I just see her eyes close, and that was it, and literally you're like, within what, 2 hours, you're suddenly seeing your child's just died in front of you. And you're just in this like, you're having to now call your family, your mum, your dad, to say, your grandchild's just died. And that was what happened. Pretty much, I might have got some, but that's pretty much exactly what happened.
I think the thing that strikes me the most from that amazing, description of the moment, is that you had no time to prepare.
No, this is one of the big differences. Not differences
between me and
you.
I had a day, but
lucky you. Yeah, that's one of the several little differences. But in essence, that's exactly what happened. We had no time to prepare. We had no idea what was going on until it happened. When it did happen, everyone in the hospital said to us, and remember as well, this is in a foreign country. Let's add that other element to it. So this is now in a foreign country, and they all saying to us, why were you even allowed to travel? How did she even make it? Because
you can't be dealing with those sort of questions, because I suppose at that time you can't really, people making inquiries like that. It's sort of like, some politician does something dodgy, and then they're all putting questions.
Yeah, no.
To at that time.
In fairness to the hospital.
Yeah,
they were very. It certainly wasn't having a go. It was. Dismayed. They've just seen a child die. No one No human, especially in the medical profession, most other professions, don't enjoy seeing that. But I think from their perspective, they're like, you've come from England. How did they allow you to... This to them is like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
They were right. They were right. Simple as that.
They were thinking what you were thinking at the end of the day. Right?
And then obviously after that, you've got all the other crap that comes with it, that you're now in a foreign country.
Repatriation.
Repatriation's never easy. Thank God I had insurance. People, have holiday insurance. Don't ever think you're not going to need it, because that's why you have it. And I know people mock insurance and they deal with that. You know what? You need it, because that could have, not that money would have been, well, yes, it would have cost an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
And that's just, so for the sake of 20, 30, 50, £100 for a year, just get your insurance. That was just a little. So yes, so suddenly, now you've got to have, of course, the body's got to be released, because you've got to have the coroner's got to be happy.
But it's the same. You have to have an autopsy and all that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
so that took us up to that point. Yeah. Where do you want to go now? When do I talk about them losing the paperwork?
You leave
when we flew her back.
You leave the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, without her.
Yeah. You stand outside the hospital. Do you grab your wife?
I actually left out a bit that I forgot about, which doesn't really. That's right. We were actually staying with a friend before we went to my mother-in-law, and we were like, we need to go to a doctor. We need to and we were kind of not our friend, because what she did was amazing. And very few people, do stuff like that. But she was actually the first one in the hospital when Madeline died. And I remember she came and she was, wiping. I know for some people, they're like, I don't want to hit, because blood from the nose, and there's all this shit that goes with dying. Dying's not a, lovely thing. It's a horrible thing. And she was there just cleaning. And, what a friend to do that to our child. What we're going through this, and she's there. But we were staying at her house with her now ex-husband. I know why. And he wasn't overly helpful in the situation. Not that it would have changed the outcome, but he wasn't helpful in sort of offering, let me drive you, because we didn't have a car there when let me give, even if it was me, if I had someone abroad staying with me, I'd call up my local doctor. If I had, and I say, look, I need to, in fact, no, I'm not even going to call them up. I'm going to take you there now. And do you know what? They're going to fucking see you now. I don't care. Enough of this. No, because this could be this is serious. And we didn't, and that's why we ended up going to my mother-in-law. So I kind of left that bit out.
Do you think that extra day would have made a difference?
No, not at all. What did transpire from it was
what would have happened. Sorry to go.
No.
So if it had been spotted earlier,
right,
you'd have had a blood transfusion.
Right. So after we had the autopsy and we got the results, about 2 weeks after we lost Madeline, first of all, we got a call from Dr. Warren Hire, which I mentioned his name last time.
Yeah.
And he called, first of all, to say, because it was the first he knew. He didn't know before.
Yeah.
I'm just disgusted with what's happened. She went to the A&E. Now, what they should have done is, as a child, she should have been sent through to the PACA unit, the paediatric unit.
Was this Middlesex?
It was Northwick Park.
So
she should have been sent to the paediatric unit, and she wasn't. And still to the day, that's another story. Had she been sent there, and bearing in mind this is 2 days before she died. This isn't 2-3 months. This is 2 days. Had she been sent there, they probably straight away they would have done a blood test, and they would have gone, right, she needs a blood transfusion. Now, yes, maybe a couple of months before, a month before, it would have been a lot easier. 2 days before, she would have probably had a blood transfusion. She probably would have gone through unbelievably heavy treatment. Yes, when the autopsy results came in, I think they'd given her an 85% survival rate over 5 years. But these are all ifs and buts.
Yeah.
Thinking about what would have happened, number one, we know, well, that would have changed myself and Tamar's life drastically.
Yeah.
We would have been in and out of hospitals for the God knows how long. So that changes everything anyway. Would she have survived? Don't know. She might have done, but she might not have done. What would happen after that 4 or 5 years? If she did survive, could she relapse again? I don't know. Would we forever on be living this strange life? COVID, what would have happened then? She would have been 18, 19, 20, leukemia. I don't know. It's a bit of an unknown. But she did have, as far as the autopsy was concerned, there was a good survival rate, certainly in children with leukemia. At 2 days before, I don't know.
And so beyond that, you then immediately in grieving, you get straight away. You go from, your family to
you're organising
one
people
less.
to come over from France, England.
Well, you're trying to get, in I don't know if you did a Jewish burial.
Yeah.
So in Jewish religion, they know you have to bury the body as soon as possible.
Which we couldn't, because you need to have an autopsy and a
And
coroner has to release the body.
You're overseas. Well, I've got a story about that
Yeah.
as well. We need to go about
Yeah. That's a whole podcast.
Yeah.
And they fly her back separately from us.
Yeah.
They lose the paperwork.
Tell me about that.
But very briefly, we actually got back to... one of the hardest things, or one of the many hard things associated with this is the... I suppose he was the is it mortician? He's
coroner.
He's the guy that takes the... No, she's now coming back to England.
Oh, yeah. So, well, what's it called? Yeah, we'll call it a mortician.
We'll call him a mortician. Someone can correct me. He comes to take her passport.
Yep.
I've got her passport, and she had an English passport. And I remember saying to him, I'll get this passport back, won't I? To which I think he's like, well... did she have? I can't even remember now. But it's because, of course, I think in the English passport, we're bearing it as a right to travel. It's not actually necessarily. It's not ours, but it is. We have to hand it. No, we get to keep our passports.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Dutch passports, they will then take back. And I think because he thought she had a Dutch passport, I might be wrong. And I said, well, I get this back. He's like, well, I don't. No, I'm getting this. This is my daughter's. You become very protective. No, this is my daughter. You ain't fucking having anything to do with my daughter. She's my daughter. You get. And when he realised, yes, you will. Okay, fine. And again, it's one of these. I wish I could remember all the nice things. I do. The nice things are in there, but they're buried in there. But you kind of. And all I remember is them literally just zipping the bag up, and then they took her off, and that is just one of the. And I'm not the only parent to go through that, and there's going to be millions of parents that go through exactly that.
How long did it take you to leave her? In terms of from the point where she passed to the bag being zipped up and leaving, did you stay with her? Did you want to get out of that room?
Well, yeah, because by then the autopsy has sort of been done, so
Yeah.
it's been 2 or 3
So
days or 4 days.
you didn't want to stay with her.
What for?
a
How long?
period?
How long are you supposed to stay?
I don't know.
I remember we went in.
People act differently.
Yeah,
in
well,
those
everyone does.
situations.
I remember going into the room after they'd done the autopsy, and we know what they do when they do autopsies. So you kind of you're seeing a shell, because let's be honest, they have to weigh things. They have to. It's not like they do it with X-ray.
Did she still feel like your daughter,
Oh, she was.
or was it just the body?
It's just the body.
Did you feel any spiritually, anything? Did you feel her pass into your being at any point?
No, not really. Because she was part of me anyway. She was my daughter. So
Did you have any dreams?
I think I might have had one or something. Certainly not loads. That was quite a final. That was a final few days, and I remember then she went back, and then so we came back. I remember it was the first time I'd actually been searched heavily at the airport, and I gave the guy searching me such an indignant look, like, you fucking search me, mate, because I might tell you in a minute why I'm going home, and that might shut you up. But no more indignant than I normally look at people like that.
You didn't have the stashes of weed on you this time?
No, I didn't this time. No, I should have done. No, in fact, I shouldn't have done. That was the one time that they did bloody search me. And I remember, I remember because now my mum
had it as well.
Yeah, and I now remember my mum is over there with us, and we're travelling back, and it was EasyJet. I think it was EasyJet. And we're travelling back, and the guy's asking to search me. So I'm like, come on then, fucking search me, mate. Did I tell you my daughter's dead body is just in the plane before me? But you go and search me, feel good. And I remember my mum saying, "Oh, Lee, you need to tell them what's happening." So I said, "Mum, just leave it. They're not going to find. Just let them search me. It's fine." But when we got back to England, and we were back at my mother's, because now you're grieving, and you're in my mother's house because it's big, so there's lots of room for people to come and go, and they can serve tea and cake, and not non-Jews will be like,
everyone's claiming rights to be the best friend. Yeah.
Again, that's a whole comedy element for the shiva, the mourning process, and the rabbis, and that's a whole nother. But I walked into my father and my stepfather's office, and I could hear him talking on the phone to whoever it was, going, "What? No, but what do you mean?" And I caught on. I'm like, "What's?" He goes, "Oh, they've lost the paperwork." And I'm like,
"What?
They've lost the paperwork." And I'm like, "Give me the phone." And my stepfather went, "No. I said, "She's my daughter, dead or alive. She's my daughter. She's not yours. She's mine. I will deal with it." And I took the phone, and probably for a good 40 minutes or however long it was, I was on the phone with this guy, and it wasn't his fault. And they had lost the paperwork. And I remember saying to him, "Did you have like loads of dead bodies on the plane with lots of different paperwork? You had one effing dead child on the plane."
Which airline?
And I can't remember how she came. And you've lost the paperwork. And he, in fairness to him, he was equally like stunned and shocked. And I remember he was driving around all the different places around Heathrow where it could be. And eventually we found it. And and that's one of many stories that get associated with the crazy things around death.
I can relate to the whole repatriation, because when my mum died, she was in Germany.
Okay.
My dad was trying to save her by sending her to some dark part of Germany to a guy called Dr. Herzog, who was going to cure her of her cancer.
Okay.
And
I think,
he was so far. She was so far gone at that point that while he was there, even the doctor, this miracle doctor, said she's too far gone. She ended up back in a hospital, and within a few days, there's sort of interesting points that you made on this sort of, your description, and one of them was like that, the way some people help and that sort of thing. And a couple of my parents' friends flew out to Germany just to be with them, and it was like you don't need to be here.
No, it's times like these you do discover you do discover actually some people they raise themselves so high up. Very good friends of ours, Masha and Jochen, they were on a plane, I think they were going on holiday somewhere, Sweden or something, in the Netherlands, and Tamar had obviously called them, and apparently Masha got up because they were literally about to take off. She got up on the plane and said, "I need to get off the plane. No, friend of mine's child has just died. I need to get off this plane."
Wow.
They let her off.
Good.
But stuff like that is you have them. I mean, that is you can't.
That doesn't mean if you're scared of flying, you use that as an excuse.
No,
right?
But she was absolutely. My best friend's child has just died.
Yeah.
I need to get off this plane.
Yeah.
There's no, I don't care about. And they did. But you get some people that she didn't need
elevate themselves. Yeah. And it's like, that whole process of repatriation. I don't think my dad had any insurance in the end. I mean, it was like an absolute nightmare getting her home. And
it's probably not just the cost; it's everything else associated with it as well. It's not just a simple, "Okay, we'll do it. We'll send you the bill later."
No, I mean, I was in the UK at the time with my grandma, who was my mum's mum. So having to break the news to her that she wasn't going to be with her daughter, weirdly. So it was almost like I was dealing with a parent who had lost a child, even though my mum was in her 60s and my grandma was in her 80s, maybe early 90s at that point. So in a way I was dealing with that. And then...
I remember getting a bill for the ambulance a few months later.
No shit.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Anyway, I threw that straight in the bin.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same with the Motability thing. Maddie died and Motability were like kicking up a stink about me handing back the car. It's like, I don't need an adapted vehicle anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like when I called up the school to say Madeline's not going to be coming to school this year.
Let me correct myself. It wasn't Motability. I think it was the local authority.
Yeah. It's similar to when I called up the school to say Madeline won't be coming to school because I probably didn't say it like this. I probably did put a little bit more tact. I said, Madeline won't be coming to school because she's dead. I didn't say it quite like that. To which I remember the school saying, okay, you actually need to inform the council. Well, here's so I tell you what, here's a bit of bedside manner. No, I tell you what, you fucking inform the council. I've lost my child. Do you think you could manage to call the but that's a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did they do anything to recognise...
Who?
The school. Did they
Well, no, they never knew her.
Oh, she hadn't joined yet?
No, she was about to start. She was 4.5. She was due to start in the September.
What about the previous school? Did they...
Nursery.
Yeah. You didn't tell them?
Well, we did. And what happened there is because when we were in the hospital in the Netherlands, because there was a sepsis spot, they thought it could potentially be meningitis. Okay. So because because on the autopsy it said tested for meningitis, and it wasn't, what happens is the health authority in England, they put
2
and 2 together and get about 37.953. Inform the nursery, okay, don't want to worry you, but there might be a meningitis issue. So literally, the nursery put a notice on the door. We know this because someone told us. They turned up at the nursery and said, there's a meningitis scare. No, there wasn't. It's like saying, we're testing for... CJD. Oh my God, there's CJD. No, we tested for it and it isn't there. So what they've done is they've seen the tested for, but then what happened with that is we had to take medication just in case we did. So for 2, 3, 4, it was actually quite a few days, my piss was red from the medication. And it's this constant reminder that your daughter's died. Not that you need. It's just this whole, and we laugh about this, and I want viewers to realise.
No, but there is symbolism there.
Yeah, there really is. So that's how it was recognised. The school didn't, but the head teacher at the time, when then Finn started 2 years later, something like that, 18 months, no, 3 years later, we made a point of saying, and in fact, Dame Keeble, amazing, absolutely, because I remember when we had problems in the beginning with Finn, no different to anyone else. We came in and sat down, and she was always very, very aware of what we'd been through and what we were going through. And it's really important that people in authority and people in these levels of education or importance always, and I'm sure they've also been going back to before, they're human, but they always have to remember the person that's sitting in front of you as a parent, if they've been through something like this, it's really bloody important that you recognise and remember that, because then anything for future children, when they're not well, when they're suffering from this, when they're being bullied or whatever it is, you're going to look at it differently from Mr. My life is so wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, again, another subject for another week. It's how friends react, right, and how people react around you, and you know, for me, the overriding feeling I had at the time of Maddie's passing was how my mates and people just had no words, and it almost became this sort of hashtag of there's no words. There's no words. And
no,
there
but
wasn't any words.
No, there aren't words. But what you want...
I wanted people to tell me how they were feeling to a certain degree. Because I have a close bond with a lot of my friends. You know, they're all guys. And they show zero emotion. They show zero.
What, still?
Still, today. When I turned around to one of them the other day and I said, I'm doing a podcast. That's nice.
But did you tell him what the podcast was about?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You said I'm doing a podcast
that's a really good
on
thing, but I didn't feel it was from here. I felt it was just from here, what's the right thing to say? If that makes sense. Bearing in mind, you know, my mates have struggled to deal with it. You know, and I said to you, you know, I've started obviously this Instagram journey and TikTok, and every single person who has liked my posts, as I said to you earlier, has been a woman.
It's crazy.
And you think to yourself,
it's like, come on, guys, you know, you're perpetuating what we're trying to put out there. Is that there's no reason why
I'm
men
sure in
don't.
time it will happen. And also just doing my research on charities and you know, and trying to set up a charity. I mean, that's a garachka as it is. I mean, it's
a what?
A garachka.
A garachka. A garachka.
It's a what? And yeah, you need 3 trustees. It's a right performance. Anyway, so, you know, but the point is that even the charities that are there, they sort of talk about the parents. They talk about children who have lost siblings and parents and stuff like that. But there just doesn't seem to be anyone that I've found so far, and I beg you to come and find us if there is in the UK. You know, if there is a charity that support men who, you know, who have lost children. You know, so going on from that, it's like, you know, your feelings, and I want to read, I know we've got to wrap up soon, but the feeling you had from, I got the impression your feeling at first was, as you said, numbness, which isn't really a feeling. It's
a lack of feeling.
It's a lack of feeling. Then you probably
it's shock. It's shock.
Then you probably went through a little bit of anger, maybe.
Yeah.
You wanted retribution. You wanted to know.
I was furious with the GP here.
Yeah.
They quickly wiped their feet.
I mean, in those, I don't want to. We
talk
about the longer process later,
yeah.
but I'm saying in those initial days, you go to sleep at night. How would you wake up in the morning?
Empty. You feel.
Did you feel it
physically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you feel it the most?
You just wake up empty. You wake up like empty. You feel that you've had something just ripped out of you and it's just been thrown away.
And did you talk to your wife in the early days?
Yeah. Oh, yes, we did. But we were both going through exactly the same thing. I do think.
Is she more of an emotional type than you? In the sense, did she cry a lot?
Yes.
Yes. And did you?
Well, okay. So you know what I'm going to say. You know exactly what I'm going to say. Look, there are certain emotions associated with being a man and a woman. And I think, you know, physically and mentally, we are wired differently. We're the same, but there's lots of little bits that go off in different directions, and that's never going to change. Some are more emotional than others, and
some.
Yeah, some. But as well in a relationship, whether it's 2 men, 2 women, man and woman, or nowadays other
just be sure to
things
to cover all bases.
Yeah, to cover all bases. Not that I give a shit about offending people, because there's nothing offensive. Anyway,
that's going to get a reaction.
Oh,
after all this, that will get the reaction.
Yeah, that will be the only thing that gets the reaction. Oh yeah, very interesting. But I must say, he didn't mention, you know, he, they, she, it. Anyway. Get over it. Right.
We're creating a new plus.
Yeah, we're creating a new plus. Dads. Whatever D, LGBTQ and D. Yeah. Anyway, slight digression. Yeah. But I think in any relationship or partnership, whether it's business or personal, you have your, when one is there, when one is there, one is like that, and then when they're there, and I think that's probably what happened. Naturally, I suppose people would argue that as a mother that has born and has grown that child inside of them, you know, there is going to be a bond that is going to be different to a dad. I mean, that's I get it. And I do totally get it, because then again, it's loads of other conversations, because when you're a dad, or you're a dad to be, depending on how you are as a father, for that first 9 months, well, you're just like, all right, wind on your bladder. I don't know. I can't feel it. Oh, yes, I felt a kick, but that's it. Not that that's it, but that's what you do. And then when the baby's born, especially as all of our children have been breastfed, I've got very little to do, because
you get one of those.
Well, no, because they were breastfed. They
No,
weren't.
I'm saying, but you could have got one of the attachment ones, and she could have
expressed.
Yeah,
yeah. We didn't do that. You know.
I'd love to have seen that.
Yeah, that would have just been. There are some things anyway. But so what I mean is that, so you have these roles anyway, don't you? And I remember, and rightfully so. You know, Tamar was absolutely devastated. I remember her lying in Madeline's bed, devastated, and I totally understand why.
Did you give her a lot of space, or did you try and comfort her?
I tried to the best of my ability.
But you're also grieving.
Yeah.
And how were you with Finn?
He was 18 months.
So you didn't really need to explain anything?
No, not yet.
And you still had to compute that part, that you still had another child that you had to look after. Did you give him to a grandparent for a couple of days while you...
There were probably I honestly can't really remember.
Was there any moments when it was just you and Tamar together?
Oh yes, there would have been.
And
silence a lot of the time. I think
just try and turn the TV on, watch something.
Yeah,
on TV,
I can't. I mean, what you're now doing
escapism.
What you're now doing is you're now almost starting on a whole new chapter of the grieving process, because
it's like one chapter of the book has ended, and now you're in the next.
And now you're at home, and now you're times where you're sitting there.
Where is my story going?
Yeah, you're now sitting there in total silence, and you're just watching shit on TV, but no one's saying anything because there's nothing to say.
There's no words.
What are you going to say? Or how you? Well, you know how I'm bloody feeling.
There was no moments of blame towards each other, or.
No, I don't think there ever was. If there was, it was mild. I do say one of the overriding relief, if that's such a word, is we were with her.
And also,
could you imagine if we weren't?
At that point, there was also the relief of finally knowing what it was. Because, I don't know, in a way...
Me being cold, she was dead, what did it matter? I know that sounds
I think the point I'm getting with that is, you know, I suffered so many years from anxiety, and a lot of the questions I've asked today have been based on the feelings I've got. And what I find it very interesting from all this is that you have reacted very differently to grief from what I can understand. Because the one thing that I've been trying to get at is, where do you feel it most? And I can tell you now.
Oh, it's just in. It's like the inner.
It's anxiety.
Yeah. Totally. Very good. So, what happens? And again, it's another thing. Is that triggers? We'll do that another time. Triggers.
I got one big trigger.
Yeah. And there's lots of triggers, and then when you have those triggers, it gets you in that same, and it's like woof. It's this, and you can't help it.
I haven't been able to escape. I think only recently, and this podcast is a massive part of that therapy for me.
We want it to be a part of everyone's.
Yeah, triggers. You know, anger, frustration, people, the wrong people in your life, toxins. There are so many things that set you off, and anxiety has always been a part of my makeup.
But did you?
Because you don't know.
Were you an anxious person before? Were you an anxious person before Maddie was born, or did your anxieties?
The definition for anxiety for me is fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And obviously in the early days of Maddie, not knowing what her diagnosis was, grieving the diagnosis, and then learning cerebral palsy, what did the future hold? Yeah, anxiety every day. Would my business survive another year? Yes, anxiety. We get to 2017 and business is still going on a yearly basis. Anxiety. Then she dies. Fuck. What does the new anxiety entail here? This is a fear of the future. So then you make adjustments to your life. You then get the anxiety from the adjustments to your life. Where is my life going? I can't be in doing certain things like my business. I need to move away from the business. Anxiety. What am I going to do next? So yeah, anxiety is a pretty big word in my life.
But I think it's a part of maybe a lot of people's lives without even necessarily realising.
Yeah. But I think people misinterpret the word anxiety. And, you know, when I hear of a child having to take time off school for anxiety.
Really?
I mean,
well, okay.
Where
I said
where
really,
are we
I
going
didn't
with
mean
that?
it.
I mean, look, I'm not critiquing people, and I'm not trying to say, oh, my anxiety is bigger than your anxiety, but the fact is, I've tried for many years to control my anxiety, and you said it earlier. You wake up in the morning with a level of emptiness. There's nothing really you're striving for. You know, I felt that so many times over the years.
I had it the other night. Literally the other night, watching a film, and
I'm bored of watching movies.
Oh, I'm not bored of what. No, I'm never.
No, what I mean is, sometimes I watched a movie last night, Coach Carter.
Oh, okay.
And I just like, I know, random. But I was flicking through everything. I couldn't find anything to watch, and I'm like,
yeah. And Tamar would say to me, "So then go to bed." Yeah.
And then you end up.
I was watching Meet Joe Black.
I haven't seen that one.
No, with a young Brad Pitt. This is just ridiculously good looking, that guy. Just,
You look similar.
yeah. I wish I had hair like that at his age. Just the way. Anyway.
Even at his age now.
Yeah, I know. Looks even better now, bastard. But a young Brad
He's
Pitt.
been to Turkey.
Yeah, and a younger Anthony Hopkins. And I'd never seen it before, and I started to watch it. And actually, in the beginning, I thought, oh, it's a bit cheesy, but he played Death.
Oh, right.
Joe Black was Death. I thought he was Devil's Death. But as the film got on, I was like, oh, this is actually... It was good. And then towards the end, bash, it hit me. There was something that triggered, and it got me.
Really?
Got me. Just absolutely straight there. And I looked up at a picture of Madeline, and gone. And triggers. It's you. And sometimes you never know where they're going to come from. Oh, yeah.
How many do you have a year?
It's a good question. Not that many, but I've never counted. So I don't know. I mean, I remember seeing a children's film in the cinema, and there was a moment. It was one of those animated films where it was the girl that was the ghost, and then eventually they sort of managed to free her and da. Mate, at that moment towards the end, I was gone, absolutely ripped apart. Triggers.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, despite all the anxiety.
4, 5? Bawling out moments where the bottom lip quivers and I get that feeling inside like I'm going to get into bed because I think the one time I've actually let out, and we brushed on at the start of this meeting, was when I went to my first therapy session or second therapy session. The first one was more about logistics of how I was going to do it through the healthcare system. But basically, the second session, he looked at me and he said, tell me about Maddie's passing, the moment it happened. And I looked at him and I said, well, it's in the book. You can't get away with it that easily,
I know.
can you?
And he was like, why do you keep referring to the book?
Yeah.
It's like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And he was right. And
but it's like if you just said that to me, it's in the book, read it. No.
Yeah, he didn't want to read it. I was sending him extracts in the week leading up. Like, this is my story. Look at me.
No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
You tell me.
And that was the moment. And I think we should finish at that point because that's where we're going to start the next one. That was the moment I broke down for the first time probably in 5 years. And that was the first
And
day of my grief.
And that's a long time after.
Yeah.
It is.
Because you go away, you escape, you ignore, and men do that. And as I said, you know, they're the sort of stories we want to hear about what nutty things have you done to sort of escape grief. Yeah?
Okay, till the next time.
It's been a pleasure.
Been good.
As ever.
As ever.